The loop of pain. Why do you always repeat the same mistakes? 5 levels of consciousness. What's up, curious minds? Today we're going to unravel one of life's most frustrating mysteries. Why do we repeatedly follow patterns that we know harm us? This isn't just any topic, it's the invisible script that directs many of our actions, relationships, and even our internal dialogue. Get ready, because this won't be a superficial chat. It's a deep dive, level by level, into the depths of our psyche, and I promise you that by the end, you'll see this in a completely new way. To begin our journey at level 1, basic knowledge, let's talk about the most obvious aspect, those romantic relationships that always end the same way, with the same type of drama or the same pattern of abandonment. It's the cliche of "it always happens to me." Another fundamental point is chronic self-procrastination, or the promise of "tomorrow I'll start the diet," or "this time I'll get organized," which is then broken again and again, affecting our self-esteem and our perception of control over our lives. We also notice that human tendency to revert to habits that harm us, such as smoking, overeating, or watching too much television, even knowing the consequences. This goes back to how our primitive brain seeks immediate gratification and avoids effort, an evolutionary inheritance for survival. Finally, the famous comfort zone. Why do we cling so much to what's familiar, even if it limits us or hurts us? It seems like self-sabotaging behavior, doesn't it? But why is it so persistent and taken for granted? All these examples, repetitive relationships, procrastination, harmful habits, the comfort zone, are just the surface, the tip of the iceberg. They are the most visible symptoms of a much deeper mechanism. But to understand the why behind these facts, we must look beneath the surface. It's time to move to level 2, hidden mechanisms. The first internal mechanism is confirmation bias. Our brain seeks out and prioritizes information that confirms what we already believe. If we believe that all my partners are the same or that I am a procrastinator, we unconsciously look for evidence to prove it, creating a loop. From neuroscience, neuroplasticity plays a crucial role. Our brain is efficient. It creates neural pathways for the thoughts and behaviors we repeat. It's like a path in the forest. The more you use it, the more defined it becomes. These invisible paths push us towards what's familiar, whether good or bad. Cognitive dissonance is another thought pattern. If our actions contradict our beliefs, for example, I want to change, but I keep doing the same thing, we experience discomfort. To reduce it, we often change the belief or justify it instead of changing the behavior, reaffirming the pattern. From an anthropological point of view, family and cultural narratives passed down through generations greatly influence us. If you grew up with the idea that life is a sacrifice or love hurts, you are more likely to seek out and repeat relationships or situations that confirm that narrative, even unconsciously. Paradoxically, the repetition of harmful patterns often resolves a fundamental human need, the need for predictability or control. A known pain, a chaotic but familiar relationship, is preferable to the uncertainty of change. It gives us an illusion of security in an unpredictable world. And the final mechanism, and perhaps the most insidious, is intermittent reinforcement. Think of a slot machine. You don't always win, but the fact that sometimes you do keeps you hooked. In our lives, a small moment of connection in a toxic relationship or a sporadic success in a self-destructive habit is enough to keep us in the loop. This changes our perception. It's not that we want to suffer, but that we are vulnerable to these unpredictable rewards. Understanding these hidden processes, from confirmation bias to intermittent reinforcement, is crucial. It shows us that we are not simply weak or foolish for repeating patterns, but rather that we are navigating complex internal and external mechanisms that push us towards them. It is the first step towards true self-understanding. But reality is never that tidy. This is where the story gets complicated. It's time to descend to level 3, complexities and debates. The first major controversy is free will versus determinism. If our brains are wired with neural pathways and our past experiences condition us, how much real freedom do we have to break a pattern? Are we truly masters of our choices or merely executors of an already written script? Here we debunk a popular myth. If you truly want it, you can change anything. While willpower is important, it is overrated. The reason we like this myth is that it gives us a sense of total and simple control, but it ignores the complexity of the cerebral and emotional mechanisms we saw in level 2. An inherent paradox of the topic is the dilemma of change. The pattern hurts us, but trying to change it generates an anxiety and fear of the void that is almost as unbearable as the pattern itself. It's like Theseus's paradox. How many parts of ourselves can we replace before we stop being us? A rarely questioned ethical or social objection is the glorification of resilience without questioning the causes of trauma. If society only applauds those who overcome a toxic situation without asking why that toxic situation occurs and repeats itself, aren't we perpetuating the cycle of harm instead of preventing it? The concept of karma or destiny across civilizations offers a historical controversy. From ancient religions to modern thought, the idea that we reap what we sow can be a tool for responsibility or a justification for inaction in the face of harmful patterns seen as inevitable. Connecting with the human condition, the unresolved problem is the integration of the unconscious. Much of why we repeat patterns lies in impulses and fears that we cannot consciously see or name. How do you fix something you don't know is broken, or where it hides? This level 3 shows us that the topic of pattern repetition is intrinsically full of deep debates, nuances, and difficult questions. There isn't a single easy answer, but rather a web of forces that constantly push and challenge us. Now it's time to see the details that separate the curious from the true connoisseurs. Welcome to Level 4 Niche Knowledge. A specialized concept not found in popular culture is the intergenerational transmission of unresolved trauma. This is not just about learning from parents, but about emotional and behavioral patterns from previous generations that are unconsciously inherited without a direct trauma event having occurred. Another technical detail is the hedonic valence of attentional bias. Our brain is programmed to pay attention to stimuli with a strong emotional charge, even if they are negative. Imagine an emotional magnet that pulls you towards what is familiarly painful because your brain recognizes it and gives it more weight than the positive unknown. It's like a dog sniffing garbage because it knows what to expect from it. A crucial and little-known historical figure on this topic is Karen Horney. Long before popular psychology, she described the repetitive, neurotic solutions people adopt to deal with anxiety and how these solutions, while initially alleviating, become the main problem and repeat themselves. A secondary, less conventional theory is the sick role theory, adapted. For some people, repeating patterns of suffering confers a role in their relationships or society that gives them unconscious attention or secondary benefits, making it difficult to abandon. Identity merges with the pattern. A counterintuitive detail from laboratory research. Neuroimaging studies have shown that the brain can activate reward circuits, releasing dopamine, not for direct pleasure, but for the resolution of uncertainty. That is, even a negative or painful outcome, if predictable, can be rewarding for the brain, because it reduces the anxiety of not knowing what will happen. And a final niche detail that connects several ideas: enactment in therapy. It's not just that the patient repeats patterns with the therapist, transference, but that the therapist unconsciously can act out the pattern with the patient, countertransference. This reveals how deeply ingrained patterns are and how they are activated in human interaction, demonstrating that they are a dance between two nervous systems. This level 4 has immersed us in the nuances and the hidden corners most people are unaware of. It allows us to see that the repetition of patterns is not a character flaw, but a highly complex web of biological, psychological, and social mechanisms operating beneath the surface of our consciousness. And what lies beyond what we know? Let's enter the final frontier, Level 5, Frontiers in Speculation. A futuristic idea is that, with the advancement of neurotechnology, we might be able to directly deactivate or reprogram the neural pathways of harmful patterns. Will it be possible to rewrite our own behavioral code? And if we do, what consequences would that have for our individuality or for society? A fundamental question that science and philosophy cannot yet answer. Is there an original pattern inherent to the human condition, a kind of factory malware that condemns us to repeat certain universal errors? Or are they all culturally constructed and therefore completely deconstructible and eradicable? The most dizzying philosophical implication is this: if our patterns are the expression of our unconscious programming, if we are so determined by our past and our biology, what does it truly mean to be free? Is freedom the absence of patterns, or the capacity to consciously choose our patterns? Connecting with the destiny of humanity, understanding and transcending these patterns is crucial for our collective evolution. If we don't understand why we repeat historical conflicts, abuses of power, or environmental damage, we are condemned to replicate them on a global scale, hindering our potential as a species. And the most provocative statement, perhaps the deepest patterns are not meant to be broken in the sense of eliminating them, but to be understood, transcended, and integrated. Perhaps they are the map of our own evolution, the recurring lessons that guide us towards a still unimaginable state of consciousness, where repetition becomes a loop of learning and not of pain. We have completed this journey through the 5 levels of knowledge, from the basic to the most speculative. It's time to gain perspective and see the full picture. We began with the frustrating and simple idea of always repeating the same mistakes, something that seemed like a mere character flaw. And we have arrived at the understanding that these patterns are a highly complex web of biological, psychological, and social mechanisms, even a possible evolutionary map for our consciousness. It is no longer a flaw, but an indicator of a deep path, a loop of learning, not just of pain. The understanding of pattern repetition has completely transformed. And now, the question for you: what part of this journey changed your perspective the most, or made you think differently about why we do what we do? Tell me in the comments. I love reading your reflections. If this descent into knowledge left your head spinning, don't forget to like the video, and of course, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our next deep dives. See you in the next video.